All right, there we go. Let me know if you can hear me. Hear the one in the chat. You be able to hear me. All right, there we go. I want to thank everybody for coming through on the Man Tomorrow here. Second series of this Black Manosphere series called the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Men by the Educated Effery. So you have to realize that most men in this space have ultimately failed at their job. Now, I didn't know this up front, but a lot of failed men came to YouTube as sort of the new rap career. They wanted to poison an actual movement meant on actually informing men about choices and getting them past those type of choices in society and life, and to be able to move on to make better decisions. Then there was people who came into the actual movement who wanted to poison the movement to turn it into their personal piggy bank because we have to respect the dude's hustle and all that kind of stuff. And you have to understand that 1.0, the Manosphere, never tolerated these guys. They never had a voice. There wasn't all these panels and all this kind of stuff. So you have to realize that once you start seeing all these pieces kind of come together, you can see how they wanted to drag the people who actually did have a future into the kind of framework that the people who didn't have a future had. So you have to realize that most of the problems that black men have is connected to the counterpart to which they actually put themselves with within the actual environment. Most of them do. And most problems after that have to deal with the people who's on the constant chase of the counterpart because masculinity has been supplanted with chase. You're supposed to be chasing productivity. You wasn't supposed to be chasing and having yourself continuously kind of be around people who don't have your best interests at heart. We have people who are 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 something years old, and damn near 60 years old, who still is trying to make it look like they're good at the counterpart within the environment. And this doesn't start with Black YouTube. It started a hell of a lot before Black YouTube. It started during the Black exploitation era, where people had started getting access to actual women because they were non-productive within the environment. And producing only meant the obtainment of women, not production meant actually getting an education, getting skills, and taking it to the dominant society within the environment. So the people, especially people who are boomer age, they definitely know this is true. But what has happened today is that the more educated and productive people have joined the destroyers of yesterday to actually do the same thing. So let's run down the first team of people. This is the people who is obviously here for the effery. We got the criminals of the environment. Thanks for the $5 super chat. I just you got the criminals, the pimps, drug movers, obvious people from the church. You have people who really can't produce on their own. They actually need other people within the environment in order to stay afloat within the environment. Because see, a destroyer actually do produce something. It is called chaos, and they actually need chaos in order to survive. So they have no problem with gangs, people who rob others, D-boys, people who deliberately misguide children into their lives and doing stuff on their behalf. They have no problem turning guys on to a bad product, which is their future selves in the first beginning. And you do have the actual counterpart woman in the environment who's actually also watching all this stuff go on. Because these men, the one that I've named, they only do stuff in order to get access to what they think manhood is in the environment. This is why you have people who claim that they're good with women, who claim that they have stuff in common with people who are a hell of a lot better than them. But see, you have to understand what the churn rate is. The churn rate is very high, damn near 100%, 99.9% to be exact, for an actual street dude to be able to make it within this environment, for a drug dealer to be able to make it within the environment, for an actual pimp to be able to make it, especially now within the environment. Extremely difficult. And then you have the whole scammer class of Black America. The scammer class who have this type of model that goes that any way is every way. And they depend on the collective silence of most people within the environment so that way they can survive. That's one half of it. The other half of it is the entertainment class. TVs, movies, documentaries, music, art. They've also joined this kind of fray, actually grifting off the environment, never really creating anything in the environment, but but their actual idea was to sow their quote unquote oats of masculinity within the environment to kind of paper over the actual productive members of society. Now you have the educated guys who's doing the same thing that the actual destroyers are doing. I'm talking about the church, PhDs, jailhouse scholars, pro blacks. They have joined the side of those people who are sowing division within the actual environment. So now, with all these people being on one half of the coin within the environment, every single one of these people have a very clear enemy: the productive black man. That's right. The productive black man is the greatest threat to black America the way that it is currently headed. Because if a person was raised to know their value very young and was taught to not respect every single entity I just named, there is a nearly 100% success rate that this person is going to make it as soon as they make it out of the environment. But you have to understand that the farming community, the people who are hell bent on choosing certain type of men to create the trash DNA that we now have to live with within the society. That's just where we are. That is exactly where we are within society right now. So before I go forward, I'm going to go over something here. So you have to realize that most of these people have joined together to make sure that the woman runs the environment, that her choosing ability runs the environment, that what she wants runs the environment. Because if men actually had to run the environment, the new men, the dudes who became productive at 20, 21 years old, they would already be better than most people in their 50s at this point. Then the new productive class of Black America would turn its back or ask questions to the older individuals within the actual society about how come they didn't take maximum advantage of the actual opportunity within their environment. You see, now we got everybody trying to eat at the same time. We got 50-year-olds who's not ahead of 20-year-olds. And the 50-year-olds merely want to be given credit for being old within the environment, but they're not accomplished within the environment. The only thing that they were accomplished at was waiting on the younger generation to come bail them out of the things that they never did within the society and the environment. Now we know that it's all a grand lie. What they wanted was the protection of the bottom so that way they wouldn't have to produce. This is why they wanted to make sure that the women ran things within the environment so that way they also still wouldn't have to produce. They wanted the street guys to speak for the people so that way they didn't have to have the responsibility of production. They wanted the woman's word to actually wash over the environment. But you have to understand that if you are a productive male and if you don't find yourself with one of these bad counterparts within the environment, the actual, they think that you are a failure of the environment. Because most of these people that I've named earlier who have combined together, they actually don't want you to have a level of happiness within society. Because sexual activity is always supposed to end up with some type of consequence. Look at how their lives ended up out here. You got all these people who claim to be very good at a very specific subsegment of women, but nobody has any proof of concept. No one who claims to be a teacher of this actual product can never show you an actual outcome that can actually compete with the other people within the environment. So you have to understand that they wasn't living vicariously through their children as most older individuals do with the young. These people were maintaining destruction vicariously through others through silence of the actual outcome of the environment that is actually pretty avoidable. What's going on, Shea Brother Allah? Thanks for the $5 super chat, brilliance. So you have to understand that maintaining the destruction vicariously through others requires a lot of silence. It requires the silence of teachers. It requires the silence of mentors. It requires the silence of the educated individuals and along with everybody else in society. Why are they hiding the simple fact that you should have just stayed away from 2 points within Black America and you would have been fine? Why would all of these people keep a certain level of silence to young people within the environment. I'll tell you why. We know older women within the environment who, quote unquote, feel like they haven't had their chance actually would not help the women in the environment with the men that they think they should have. So when you have such a feminine construct within the environment, go from woman to actual man, that's the word I'm going for, Blaze. Now you have men who actually think that the other men within the environment now believe what the women believe within the environment. They don't think the men should go on to production within the environment unless they swam through the lake of fire with incorrect and improper counterparts that they were never warned about staying away from as an actual brand of masculinity that somebody should actually endure within the environment. Now, the rite of passage within the black environment is trying to deal with the counterpart with the environment. Now this counterpart has gotten started pretty early, satisfying the older men in the environment at their younger age. Now, the counterpart within the environment has about 40 years on her. So by the time she hits the age of 18 or 19 years old, there's no way a normal 18 or 19-year-old can actually compete with a person who has been on the market having a lifetime of sexual experience. So for the woman's point of view, she wanted to be compensated right away for all the time she put in servicing all the men within the environment. So the collective silence within Black America is trying to make the youth, Black men, who are not really taught their actual value within society, they're going to make them feed the older women and the younger women within the environment. And it's the biggest game that's being played on every single person within the environment. But when you have so many people caught up in the actual look of Black America versus the actual operability of Black America, this is what you have. A lot of people think that the Blackest community is probably the best community for everybody here, but that's not the case. We already have the Blackest community we can possibly have at this point in time. It's just not the best operating. Because when you care about operations, you care about things from decision making to actual completion of the actual product, which is the child. So when everybody is acting all shocked and surprised about how the women roll past the men, the actual women get more help in becoming who they are as women in the environment versus men becoming who they are within the actual environment. So if you have women who exclusively speak for other women within the environment, and you have men who actually speak for women also within the environment, there's obviously going to be a lot of men who's going to be left behind. So you have to ask yourself, why is there so much of a completion percentage that is so low for actual men out here within the environment? But the women have the choice of whether they want to be productive or sit around and be fed upon by other people within the environment and still have a level of relevance within the culture. Most people within this environment think that they have game. They don't understand that game doesn't work anything except on unkept, irrational women. But everybody wants to make the claim to fame that they got this product that they don't demonstrate. And the only thing they do whenever you push them into a corner, they come out swinging just like the counterpart within the environment. You see, people only act like within the environment like the type of person who doesn't get any type of criticism for their actions. This is why most people wanted to be street people, drug pushers, all that kind of stuff. They got to be productive right away. They got celebrated for being productive right away, and they really face no consequences for their actions. So the system that they set up was so that ill-informed boys can take over for the actual older individuals who didn't do their job within the same environment. Because everything within the environment was based on keeping the counterpart woman happy within the environment. Everything was based on that. And whenever you have a person who even raises their head a little bit to talk about a semblance of order within the environment, there would always be an overwhelming number of guys who's trying to socialize you into thinking that this is how things have obviously always were within the environment. And that's crazy. It's never been always that way within the environment. My grandfather told me in this generation, there was very few of these people. In my father's generation, it became nearly half of the people within the environment. Within my generation, it came to about 75, 80% of people within the environment. And by the time the millennials came around, it was 90 to 95% of the people within the environment. Everybody had this semblance of wanting to be compensated just because they're them, but nobody put the work in. Obviously, different areas of the country, it's harder than others, the South being one of those places. But nobody was moving like there was any semblance of relevance because somebody was going to come and save everybody. This is why nobody needed to move anywhere within the environment because the children was going to save the adults from their problems within the environment. And now you have most of these individuals, males, men within the environment, who are leveraging three types of women that are left within the environment. Now you have to understand up front, they was raised under improper circumstances. But you have to understand the three women that are left. We're talking about 30s, 40s, 50s. We're not talking about people below that. But they all share the same type of fault within the society and the environment. The very first is the woman who has no experience of her own, but have all of the trappings of the silence that's being shared by everybody else within the society and environment. The second type of woman that's on the market is the woman who currently is engaging in everything that she can within the marketplace in the environment. And then you have the third type of woman that's very low number, is the women who already been through all of that and who's just merely trying to get out of the environment itself, who's trying to retire right now. Not really change their ways all that much, but they're just trying to retire. This is the agreeable class. Those are the three types of women that are left here. And all three have the sense of entitlement. Even though they don't have any experience investing in the type of man that they quote unquote need right now. Because all three of these type of people at this point in time, they've always been taught that they was just going to get them a stepdaddy at the end of the day. Nothing, they didn't have to give the best years of their life to anybody else. They didn't have to. There was always going to be a group of men who they deliberately left behind that was going to clean up all this stuff for them. And then you had the educated effery, the combination of nearly all the men within the environment who kept this type of stuff going. Everybody did not warn the men just to simply leave these counterparts alone. Because again, they wanted the blackest looking family possible. The answer is no, Israelite. Neither one of these three people can be trusted. So what you have to understand is if you have the cultural responsibility of cleaning up behind 2 to 3 generations of people who don't respect you, how on earth is that supposed to turn into a likelihood of result for people within the environment? It just doesn't make any sense. But there is a way out. No matter where you are, no matter what you've been through as a man, you have to focus on skills and abilities within this environment. You have to walk away from this. Let them be had by the people who had them in the first place. So you have to understand that peace of mind for the woman within the environment has been running the environment. Now it's time for peace of mind for men in the actual environment to run the environment. That's what that's time for. It is time for you to shut people out with your productivity. This is just currently where we are at within the environment. But you have to understand that a lot of people, or nearly all of them, who have this type of problem within this environment is everybody want to cover the woman's tracks within the environment by making these ubiquitous claims that they are community focused. So they want to be community focused when it comes time for the cleanup, but nobody was community focused when it came to protecting the environment or even stopping this environment from being formed in the first place. So you have to understand that it makes sense for women to be community focused within the environment. That makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't make sense for men to be claiming that they're community focused within the environment because we know most men just want sexual access to the actual women that they're claiming that they're going to be trying to help within the environment. Because we have set up within this black construct that the people without money get to act like they get to decide how everybody else's productivity is going to be spent within the environment. That's what we set up here. So how are people who never ran anything is somehow going to come up here and try to run things for everyone else? It just don't make any sense. But if there are enough people in their 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s that embody the same type of mind state, you as a person who did everything right could easily feel outnumbered. You can easily feel outnumbered because they were supposed to socialize you into thinking that in order to get into these people's good graces, you needed to do exactly what they said and what they were told. Even though they had their level of individuality within the actual environment, you were not supposed to have any. Your individuality was supposed to be caught up in gaining the favor of those type of men within the environment of large number and those type of women who are left behind also in large number within the environment. This is why they never teach their kids to be self-sufficient, because teaching their kids to be self-sufficient would automatically lift the veil over the kids from the kids' eyes and make it look like, what? Now wait a minute. If I'm being a self-sufficient person, what did you do with all your time when it came time for you to be self-sufficient without me? This is how you get all these children being kept as domesticated pets within the actual black environment. And it's 100% okay with everyone else also within the black environment. Because everybody is holding everybody else's favor within the environment. Everybody knows the outcome of black America would be way the hell better off if the men were to be as productive as the women within the environment. But the men actually overwatch within the environment this never happening so that way they can keep the actual environment in the hands of the women. Trust me, if they wanted this stuff to be over, where's the track record? It has to be somewhere, right? If everybody want all this stuff, it has to be somewhere. And this is why I just keep saying the unification deal is not going to happen. You have to separate and unify as the answer. Trust me, it's fan fiction that equalizes everybody no matter what they did before and give them an artificial path for unity. You would still be outnumbered 1,000 to 1 with the problems of yesteryear that those people willingly have an apologetically have taken. You have to understand that this is what's being done today. That's the religion of Black America, that somebody is going to bail us out of this. But these people who have done wrong with their silence in the society and environment have served no time for the internal strife and the outright destruction of our race by siding with the feminists and blackwashing our community with kids neither one of them wanted. which would make the women not even want to develop the boys to be men because they didn't respect the process of creation. And these people who have either participated in this type of process actually think that they are so far ahead of other men with also within the process. You have to learn to be self-sufficient and change your focus to self-sufficiency rather than chase the endless external validation through codependency. A man was never supposed to be codependent within the society and the environment. Most things that men do in the actual environment was supposed to be independent of somebody's actual opinion, unless it was the same people within the field. Not everybody wants to get by on the I've been chosen by women thing actually within the environment versus being productive within the actual environment. And being productive is never enough. You got to spend your productivity on the right things. You're not supposed to be on the market, especially the open market, until you're 50 or 60 years old. That's crazy. You're supposed to be off the market by 25, 30 at the Met, at best. But this is currently where we are. So you have to recognize that most of these community minded people are only here waiting for somebody to clean up after their mess. They're not waiting to be productive. They're not going to school. They're not doing the things to actually compete within the environment. The only thing that they're competing with is who's going to take credit once it's all done within the environment. But this is where we are. This is exactly where we are. So they throw around these things for surrendering to the actual things within the environment. They came up with bullshit like female nature and somehow bowing down and actually feeding yourself into her baseline desires is somehow masculine for men within the environment. These people are here within large number. There's really not that many older people within the environment who open their mouths and just told you to throw all this stuff away within the environment and to connect yourself to some type of things within the environment. Hell, most of these people are making money off of this dysfunction within the environment. You don't go to any other race of people within this actual country and actually see the level of political ignorance that you would see around here. But if you're actually going somewhere, these baseline conversations would have already been solved by now. But you have to understand that everybody is trying to make sure that nobody moves ahead because they don't want anybody else having a better life than anyone else within the environment. Pretty much they want to eat the young within the environment. This is what's going on here. Because if everybody is on the same level within the environment, then nobody is responsible. So if nobody is responsible for the things that happen within the environment, then everybody can point fingers at everyone else outside of the environment for the reasons and things that happen within the environment. This is why when people start to talk, they always talk about external problems. They never talk about internal focus. They never talk about the time and the years that they spent staying away from all this stuff to become a better person. Because most of these people within the environment have no experience leaving this stuff alone. And this is why they want you to have this experience, this black experience with this counterpart and all these criminals around here and the silence. They want that to be so much of a part of black America that they will destroy it to keep this stuff here. What's going on, Gone? Anti-gravity and We Kill Dragons. This is why there's nothing wrong with the black manosphere. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just something was wrong with the people who joined the actual mission to join it, corrupt it, and destroy it for the most part. But this is where we are, folks. And none of this stuff is going to change. So if you don't see the actual process from beginning to end right now and change early enough so that way you don't need to go through as much of this stuff, then there's really no hope for you either. Because nobody really gave me this type of conversation within my life. I had to put this stuff all together by myself. And once I put this stuff all together by myself, I had to tell people about what I had together. But at the end of the day, none of these people wanted to hear that because these people wanted these problems to stay in place so that way they can survive off of it. They didn't want people moving forward from these problems because if they move forward from these problems, then they wouldn't have a place within society. Now, their place is based on the actual misuse of power within the actual society and the environment. This is why most of these people you can't trust here. Hell, don't trust me. Take my things, take it apart, see if it makes sense to you what I'm saying. I have not seen no response video going over my points point by point telling me how wrong I am. I haven't seen that yet. But you have to notice that this stuff is your responsibility to fix within your time. And once you fix it within your time, you are not supposed to repeat it. So it's on you. It's always been on you. So the actual way to get past this is quite the opposite of what they told you how to get here. How you get past this is quite the opposite of what they're trying to feed you into. How you get past this is not having this type of experience. You have to understand that you got to change yourself. Nothing else is going to change for you. You got to change. If you want it all to change, then you got to change it all. They know what they want to do with this actual thing. They want to destroy it. A lot of people seeing that a lot of men are not going to have the same type of consequences that they had in life, and they want to destroy it. They don't want you moving on to a better place because your rite of passage is going through the same things that they went through. You have to have your part in destroying this rite of passage. That is trying to obtain this the worst of the counterpart within the environment and trying to walk away unscathed and going around lying about it. You got to have a hand in actually destroying that. They had their chance to be fine with the environment. Now it's your time to walk away from it. Like I said, most men within this environment do want you to walk straight into these consequences and not even telling you about it. And then once you run into the consequences out of the environment, that is when they want you to have your actual redemption story. Having a chance should be your redemption story. It shouldn't be getting out of prison, getting out of these child support issues, staying away from people that you've obviously been screwed over by. You don't need that type of redemption story. You just need the story, not a redemption story. Because a redemption story presupposes that you're going to go through a whole lot of unneeded stuff to move forward within the society and the environment, and you don't need to do that. What's going on, Magic Matrix? Because at some point, the old information being there is actually giving you hope that you're going to have something left after you go through stuff that you shouldn't go through. That's why I took most of my old information down because we're in the year 3 of MOT and we can't be going around trying to have access to the old stuff if your ass is already past it. I don't want to keep starting the message over. Sometimes you just got to show that you made enough progress to keep your ass here. There's nothing wrong with being extremely selective of who you date. There's nothing wrong with staying off this field for an extended period of time. There's nothing wrong with that. This is where we are. And the great majority of people around you don't want to see you move on to things that are better. Most people around you are sitting right near you who's going to watch you go through a whole bunch of unneeded nonsense and say that your ass got to learn. That's just where we at. Most of the problem was you have to understand the black male emasculator. It serves two purposes: to protect their perception of their stash of worthless slash problematic pieces that they can't stop chasing, and to absolve the women of their picking and choosing ability. This is why they want women choosing the men within the environment, because that takes no real work. rather than build power, which does take work. They rather outsource that actual responsibility to the women within the environment. We all know that a self improved man or woman on average can control, but an improved looking one without improved acting one is what they truly are after overall. If the women of the environment are socialized into not making good decisions and you are the recipient of those decisions, then you are just as ain't shit as she is. But this is part of the ingenious strategy to artificially up the value of the women no matter how they look or what they do by continuing to emasculate the men who don't chase their new standard of manhood. You have to understand that a new standard of manhood is what they're trying to get you hooked on. The new standard of manhood does not produce anything. The new standard of manhood depends on everyone else within the environment to move ahead while they stay at the bottom and never have any competition because they're already at their finish line without even having ran any type of race. All you have to do is look around. The future is already in front of you. It's already here. The great thing is that you now see it without even you being asked to look at it. So you have to continue to ask yourself, why are you not making any progress? Your job is to produce, so that way you always need to keep a watchful eye on how much progress that you make within the environment. And I'm not saying keep an eye on it so that way you can give it away for frivolous ass reasons. I'm talking about why aren't you doing more for yourself and spending it on yourself? Not going to buy a car to try to impress the parking lot or get access to a person who don't give a damn about you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about doing something specifically for you. When was the last time you took yourself on a vacation where you went out and clearly enjoyed yourself without the company of other people? That's what it took for me. I'm not going to lie. Staying away from family for years, going to Mexico or San Antonio or Florida, Florida Keys, having a great time without other people being around. That's the type of stuff that's going to help you move forward. But if you keep normalizing the fact that you have to struggle with these people around you, all parts of your life, and that you never lived any point of your life without these people around, then struggling with this type of behavior becomes part of the natural order within the actual things, within the environment. Some of the best black men I've ever met in my life, I met while traveling, especially in the summer. But this is where we are, and this is within your reach in this generation. This stuff is not some far-flung idea. This is basic minimum thinking. But the reason why it doesn't work within this culture is because you're trying to be, you want the right people to be celebrated by the wrong people. You have to understand that we have a different level of values. You have the people who want to keep putting the woman's needs first because they don't want you to move ahead without knowing what that struggle's like. And then you got people who want you to move ahead without any of those struggles at all. Those are the only two camps that are left here. I know a lot of people don't want to be left behind, but man, look at these outcomes. These outcomes, man, a lot of people got left behind. 50% of the two dudes ain't got no kids. A lot of people been left behind. But you can't look at having the wrong type of experiences. It's going to help you, quote unquote, level up, man. It is not. It's going to help you lower yourself right into those people's clutches for no reason. And the only thing that makes this conspiracy work is your blind, obedient consent. That's what makes this stuff work. You got to see it. I can't be the only person who sees it. I can't be the only person who talks about it. I just can't. The only thing I can do is give you the warnings. If you want to have better outcomes, you got to have better inputs. If you plant peanuts in the spring, you're going to get peanuts in the summer. You got to go for your own happiness. And you can't put these other people in the happiness that don't fit. If they're not there at the planning stages, and if they're not there at the beginning stages, you don't let them benefit whenever you finish the stuff up. And you should be proud not to have these experiences. Leave these experiences to people who actually claim that they're good at it. It should be on everybody's lips within this space to stay away from certain types of women. It should be on everybody's lips within this space to stay away and not team up with certain types of men. It should be on everybody's lips within this space to not repeat certain circumstances. It should be on everybody's lips within this space not to bring certain cultural things along for another generation. It's your responsibility to make sure that these people don't get on anywhere. But you have to understand that it's nearly 100% of the men within this space and within Black America who want to keep this ship going with trying to bring you on to be a captain of it. The days of trying to celebrate your masculinity through being gynocratically chose is over. You're dead on arrival. It doesn't make any sense. And another thing that you got to do is you just got to dodge all this stuff. The actual best thing that happened to me was I had better experiences before I was introduced back into the bad experiences. And I'm not sure that I would even want these choices and options even if I had not went over there. I would have ran into these type of people anyway. But this is where we are, folks. I ain't got much time. I probably took too much time here. I have a panel for a little bit if people want to come up. Well, other than that, I got to get up out of here. So let me drop this link in the actual chat, see who comes up. You got to be able to stay on topic. If not, I'm just going to shut this thing down and get up out of here. I don't give a fuck. Well, I want this thing copy and paste. Invite, copy, um, what in the fucking world? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. What's going on? Copy link. I am not so sure why this thing is not even copy and pasting. What the fuck? All right, this link ain't copy and pasting. I ain't got time to figure this out. So let me get up out of here, man. I want to thank y'all for coming through. Thanks for the 2 super chats. You guys have a really nice one. Peace.